and it's great to be here again. We really do have a great panel, and I can see all four of our panelists have just gone live. We have only 30 minutes, so I'm going to try and move fast. But let's start off by doing 1-minute introductions, and I'm going to just go down the line of what I see on my screen. So Mary Jo, please introduce yourself.
Sure. Mary Jo Potter here in the Bay Area. Been a member of Keiretsu for 20 years. Now involved with Keiretsu Capital and on the investment committee there. Been really investing in a variety of industries for 20 years, but the last 5 heavily focused in healthcare. Started HealthcareAngels, which is a network of folks just in the healthcare space, and then was with Health Tech Capital for a while, liked what they were doing, and then decided to join the band full-time. Also an LP in Northwestern's fund and portfolio and all sorts of other folks trying to support the cause. And so I'm very eager to hear what everybody has to say.
Great to see you, Mary Jo. And Victoria Pettibone, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. So I'm Managing Director of Astia, and Astia is an organization that it sets out to level the investment playing field for startups with women leaders and their teams. And we do so through both an angel investing network, Astia Angels, and also through Astia Fund. I've been with the organization since 2013, but the organization's been around for 20 years, began as an incubator, then evolved into an accelerator, and then we started investing in 2013. So really happy to be here.
Good to see you too. Ita Ekpoudom, I hope I said that rightly.
Hi, yes, Ita Ekpoudom. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. And I think I'm stepping in from Jesse. I'm Ita Ekpoudom, partner at Gingerbread Capital, and we are a high-growth, female-founded, focused venture fund. And we are backing high-growth Series A and later is our sweet spot. Started by Linnea Roberts after her almost 30-year career on Wall Street, where she was, prior to retiring the co-head of tech banking at Goldman Sachs. And that's also where I started my career. So looking forward to the conversation. And I hope the helicopters, I'm in the heart of Manhattan, so the helicopters are flying above my head right now. So I will mute myself in between talking.
Great. Well, great to have you. And thank you very much for joining us from New York. And Alexandra Choli.
Hi, everyone. This is I'm very, very excited to be here. Actually, I love this theme around female entrepreneurs and investors, and great to be in this panel. So I'm a partner at Metavallon VC. As Gabe mentioned before, we are based in Greece. We invest primarily in Europe and in the US, pre-seed and seed, very early seed actually. And we have a kind of a similar history as Astia, as I understand. We started about 8 years ago as an incubator, then accelerator, and for the past 2.5 years, we're investing as a fund with the support of the European Investment Fund as well. So exciting stuff.
Well, great to have you on board all the way from the other side of the world, at least for us who are in San Francisco. I know people are all over the place. So the first question I want to ask, my wife, Alison, who's also my business partner and co-author, sits on a bunch of boards, including RBS and Silicon Valley Bank. And we've done a lot of research into the issue of diversity and boards, corporate boards. And there's a lot of evidence that superior returns come from a more diverse board. But I thought we might start there because that's a deep body of information and research. So why does diversity improve economic returns? And I'm actually going to ask, if you don't mind, Victoria to go first, because I know this is Astia's purpose, but why does diversity improve performance?
Sure. There's lots of research, as you said, to back up these theories. There's, I always think there's an interesting study that came out of MIT that looked at the intelligence of groups, and they found that when you have a couple of factors, that one is the ability of people to read and listen to body language. Another thing was the evenness of conversation. And then another thing they looked at was adding women to the group. And all of these things improved the intelligence of the group. And I think there's something goes hand in hand. I mean, women have been socialized to be good listeners, and luckily that's something that men can learn too. So there's good news for everyone. But I think when you bring different perspectives around a table, you do have people with different ideas, sharing ideas, more listening. And of course, when then it's not only about gender, it's about race too. And so adding that layer in, you're going to have better decision making, because you are not just doing what everyone agrees to do, and you're thinking about what you don't know and what perspective somebody else brings to the table. So and there's all sorts of research, not just the MIT and the boardroom research, but there's a lot out there that supports the theory.
Yes, and we've seen a lot from Catalyst as well on this topic, and maybe Bill and others can share some of the links to some of these pieces of research. Alexandra, is that true in Europe too? Do you find the same thing in Europe?
Yes, absolutely. And I think Victoria put it very, very well. We see all these different perspectives coming into the same table. And this kind of allows for people to see a lot more opportunities depending on different backgrounds, different bubbles kind of combine. And of course, a lot of different risks that are perceived by other people. So this actually leads to better decisions when you are able to take into account a lot more information and opportunity and risk, essentially. So yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And as we all know, diversity is much more than just male, female. And, obviously, Ita, I'm not picking on you for that reason specifically, but tell us a little bit about other dimensions of diversity that are important in driving performance.
Absolutely. The key word there is intersectionality. There are subsets within subsets, and when you can bring those different types of diversity to the table, it makes it stronger. I mean, we look at Gingerbread ourselves. Linnea Roberts is a white woman in her 50s. I am a Black woman in my 30s. And when she went to look for a partner that she wanted to bring on to Gingerbread, she specifically wanted somebody at least, about 20 years younger than her, that would bring not only a different point of view, but a different age demographic. So that, one of the things, and we also are a virtual team and always have been a virtual team even before COVID. So I have a very strong East Coast network. She has a very strong both coast networks, but we're able to bring to the table different types of ideas. And when people come to Gingerbread, especially women founders come to Gingerbread Capital's website, they see both Linnea and I, and then when they look through our portfolio, they see a portfolio that reflects different types of women, and we do both consumer and enterprise investing. So they see, and this is one of our thesis, is that at this point when we were starting, she started in 2016 and she joined, the goal is to invest broadly because women are creating all kinds of businesses. Women create consumer businesses, women create enterprise businesses, and everything in between. And additionally, the other part is women need to be the ones deploying the capital. So the other arm that we don't necessarily put out as much is that we are LPs in about 13 funds that have women GPs.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ita. Mary Jo, you focus as much as anything on healthcare and life sciences. And biopharma, big pharma, healthcare providers, these are very diverse settings. And in fact, their leadership and their people tend to be much more a reflection of the population at large than some industries. So what's the life sciences view on this issue?
Well, the good news in the life science space is, although they're still not where they want to be on the management side, there's still a disproportionality of men in those roles. On the board level, interestingly enough, and it's been because the nonprofits have driven it to some degree, women have been better represented. And I think what people have discovered in this whole process, there's an ancillary benefit. Because board work is a team sport. Operational management, you can drive a fair amount individually, but as a board member, you're either a team member or you're an ineffectual board person. So I think having women enter at the board level has opened lots of eyes around the benefit of the style, the benefit of the basic approach. So I think we've gotten a benefit from that. Obviously the legislation in California has been controversial, but again, we're just trying to let people see people so they can then make their own decision. And I think what what we don't yet see in the life science world are minorities represented. And so that's the next, they're just very, very underrepresented.
Thanks, Mary Jo. I'm actually going to ask you to kick off the next question, because now let's turn to early stage tech investing. Keiretsu, we know, has one of the highest percentages of female membership, and our chapter presidents are a very diverse group of people and do represent more than normal in investing circles in terms of all the aspects of diversity, including international too. And many of the CEOs that just presented today and will present this afternoon are female entrepreneurs that have already been backed by Keiretsu. So does this all translate to early stage technology, and what could we be doing more of in that regard, Mary Jo?
Well, this will be a little bit of a curve, but as I went back and I looked at maybe 100 companies a month. So I looked at I try to keep the list. 70% of the companies that I have seen over the last 6 months did have women, either founders in the executive team and so on. Interesting piece of data. The majority of those folks were from out of the United States. They were immigrant women to a great extent, and I hadn't thought about this. And so again, I've got to do a whole study around it, but I think it's because we have a problem in the States. We do not have the supporting mechanisms that the rest of the world have for women entrepreneurs or women in jobs, period. So I think one of the things we may want to help foster is a thought process around how to set up infrastructure. And again, right now we're talking on women. It fits for minorities as well. How do we optimize the talent that's available with infrastructure that we just have not yet built?
Thanks, Mary Jo. Alexandra, is that true in Europe? Is it a better place to be as a female entrepreneur?
It's a good place to be as a female entrepreneur. Female entrepreneurs are very much supported both by the government with initiatives, but also by investors themselves. And to the diversity part, I find that they're much more inclusive as well. So I have found that at the very early stages, which is very, very important to include, people is all you have in the very early stages. So at these stages, women are much better at engaging advisors and including more people. And this also, I believe, is what makes them more successful in what they do. And also one other thing, and beyond, of course, the female element, we've seen that the highest performing teams have been teams that have had founders from different countries as well. So in Europe as well, we have a bit more diversity in terms of our countries. So we've seen this as a very good example.
Thank you, Alexandra. Ita, from the New York perspective, do you agree with Mary Jo?
Well, absolutely. I think, we are sitting in a new world. In the last, 3 months, and even in the last week, we are kind of sitting in a new world where a lot of things are up in the air, and a lot of people we collectively are all in our homes more than we have, and we're all seeing and hearing things. And part of that leads to one of the things people are talking about is action and what comes next. And, I think one of the most interesting articles that I read, and I was talking to Jesse before this call, was Evan Spiegel, the CEO of Snap, wrote a letter to all of the employees of Snap on Sunday night, talking about, really calling out what's going on right now, what Snap is doing. And one of the things that he brought up is that the reason he was able to become an entrepreneur is that he had the safety net of the family from which he came to know that if he failed, he could go, do something else. And that this country as a nation, to Mary Jo's point, is not set up to make entrepreneurship something that you can do if you know that if it's, putting food on the table or taking that risk. So I really do think that it's vital. And part of the reason we at Gingerbread, our focus is we've chosen to focus on women. because when you look at the VC landscape and when you look at the GPs at VC funds, less than 3% of all venture-backed dollars have gone to women. And when you look at the capital that's gone, it's kind of flown by an outsized margin. And so when Linnea speaks, she goes, you know, she says, I spent 30 years of my career doing other people's deals. And she, in a position of, you know, disposable income, but she'd never made an outside private investment. So if somebody like her in that position hasn't, then how are we expecting other women to be doing the same thing? So it's really important that creating an environment where people get that ability to have the option to take the risk to go into entrepreneurship is vital. And for us, it means deploying more capital so we can see more success stories so that it becomes less and less of an issue.
Thanks, Ita. Victoria, it was probably 15 years ago almost that Colin Wheel and I were co-presidents of Kretsu in San Francisco, and we created a partnership with Astia back then. And there are a couple of reasons. One was to be an on-ramp for your entrepreneurs, but the other was we wanted more female angel investors. And Kretsu's put a lot of effort into that over the years. I think it probably got stuck in between 15 to 20% in most chapters. So it's less than it ought to be, since women own half the wealth of the world. But it's certainly more than most angel groups. And I know a lot continues to be done to try and raise the participation of wealthy women in angel investing. But Victoria, tell us a little bit about Astia and what you're trying to do to solve the problem Mary Jo and Ita have described here in the States.
Well, we really focus on networks. I think, you know, networks still divide along gender, along race, along, you know, the various categories. And for entrepreneurs to succeed, they need to be able to access a network of investors and advisors that is not siloed. So Astia has always focused on trying to make changes within the system, not the women. And one of the ways is building a global network. I think, you know, to Alexandra's point, it really is important to bring that geographic diversity around, and also to open up global doors to women entrepreneurs, because there are sometimes more opportunities globally than here in this market. And then at the same time, also building that investor network that is made up. We were really committed to having about half-half, so half men, half women in our investor network, and really having that network bring the different perspectives and the different people together to open the doors. Where I see, just in the overall landscape, I was thinking about what everyone was saying, you know, I see progress being made on the angel side. I think there is more angel investment happening in women. There are more, there's the beginnings of more investment into women of color, just the very beginnings, but we're hearing more and we're seeing a little more in that early stage. But where I'm not seeing change yet is at that Series A. It's why Gingerbread is so important. At that Series A, Series B, I think we really aren't seeing much changing in terms of where the funding's going. And that's also why Astia has an Astia fund now, so that we can also contribute to that Series A, Series B space, where I think we really need to start pushing those venture dollars to women and and especially women of color.
Thanks, Victoria. I'm going to go to the lightning round questions now, and I'll tell you why. It just struck me. Our title for this panel is Women Leaders Outperforming During Crisis, and you're all investors. And Josh Lerner, the professor at Harvard that covers early stage investing and venture capital, just showed me a chart which actually demonstrates that investors like us outperform if we invest now. And this is looking at 2008, 2001. And there are two reasons for it. One is the valuations fall. And the second is a lot of marginal companies get flushed out. So the companies that do get funding have less competition. But I want to put the four of you on the spot, and I want to ask you, what are you doing right now to make yourself a better investor in the midst of this crisis? And so it's really question 6. It's are you investing more, and what are you doing to sharpen your pencil? And Alexandra, I'm going to begin with you. How are you going to make sure you're an outperforming investor in this crisis?
So we are continuing to invest. Actually, we are very, very actively investing right now. We did not stop at any point during this crisis. And I guess we do have a bit of an all-weather portfolio as well. We are focused on IP-driven businesses and B2B startups. So IP is really not going anywhere. One thing I guess that we made a point of not doing is actually not push valuations down and or not pull back on term sheets that we have shared, that we witnessed in this market actually. And the reason is that you have to create a goodwill and basis with the founders. So one of the things that we are doing, I guess, to outperform is to maintain trust of founders and to continue our activity and come out strong, both from a portfolio and our reputation.
Thanks, Alexandra. Ita, what are you doing to make yourself a winning investor right now?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. When you think back to 08, 09, think of the companies that came out of that. Rent the Runway, Uber, like those were the companies that were born out of the 08, 09 crisis. And I believe similarly, you will see a crop coming out of that. We are really making sure that we are in touch with our existing portfolio companies, of which we have over 50 female founded or co-founded companies. We are adding exposure to the ones that we believe are really onto something. And one of them that I think of that I'm sure you all have seen during this time, if you've been at home and seen an ad, is a company called Catch and Release. Nobody's out there shooting commercials or anything like that. If you saw Facebook's ad, if you saw Walmart's ad, it was leveraging this technology of being able to use crowdsourced user-generated content to really still be able to communicate messages across. That's a company that was ahead of its time because the agency world was very relationship oriented. We believe that that company was poised for a moment like this and that it's only going to do better as we shift forward. So amplifying the voices of companies within our portfolio that we believe are poised for growth, and then additionally making strategic new ones in areas that we believe are high growth that are going to come out of this continuing to grow.
Thanks, Ita. Mary Jo?
Now, I would say, as I look at the groups I'm part of, for the first 6 weeks, there was this pause. And we kept doing things. We kept having the Shark Tank events and all, et cetera. But there, you could tell at the end of the sessions, there'd be this quietness at the end of it. So I think we all took a deep breath. And then once we got a little bit of sense of what was going on, the market didn't totally tank. There was more hopefulness in the air. I noticed people started talking about investing again. So where I see it now is two things. I do think people are more cautious, at least those that I'm involved with are more cautious. I think they're looking for less cash intensive businesses of all sorts because we're likely to go through a bit of a long-term process here. I don't think we're going to stay where we are. I think we got to expect a few more hiccups. Given that, we're trying to focus on those companies in the next 6 to 12 months that if they need cash, it's good use of cash, or ideally they don't need much cash and we can go ahead and get them started. So I'd say that's a little bit of a difference than say 3 or 4 months ago. So far, the other challenge, we had a couple companies ready for exits. Both of them have been stalled.
Right.
And so we're also saying to everyone, quite frankly, presume most exits are going to stall. So if you were counting on liquidation events for more money, that could be a problem. And again, I just think you balance caution with opportunism.
Thanks, Mary Jo. And Victoria, do you want to go at this question too?
Yeah, sure. Well, number one, I think for those of us investing in women-led companies, we're not going to see the valuations drop so much because they don't get overvalued the way that male-run companies get overvalued. So I don't think we're going to see as much of the valuation drop in our portfolio. That being said, what I do notice a trend that's happening with a number of our companies that are doing follow-ons is they've chosen to switch to notes. The companies have. It's been company-led that they don't want to figure out pricing right now in this unknown, and investors want some downside protection in case the valuations come down. So we're doing a lot of bridges is what we're noticing. I think in general, Astia investors tend to be attracted to companies that are solving big, big problems. And so a lot of them have huge relevance right now. And so our investors are doubling down on those that are finding new opportunities right now. And there's a couple that have huge opportunity, are hitting milestones, but they are having a bit of a cash crunch right now. But we know that they're going to get out of it. So again, we're supporting those and making sure that they have the capital they need to ride out, right now. But things are going in a good direction. So I think generally feeling cautiously optimistic is right. And I think I'm feeling very pleased at how the companies are handling this time.
Thanks, Victoria. We literally only have 3 minutes left, so this will have to be super quick from each of you. But there's, as I'm looking at it right now, there's 106 investors on this call right now. I hazard to guess that probably 80 of them are male. What would you want them to do, and what's the big takeaway you'd like to leave with them at the end of this panel? Victoria, why don't you go first?
Okay. When you think of the reasons you're not going to invest in a company, quickly ask, are those the same questions, or those the same reasons you would have given if that had been a white male that had just pitched to you? Just see, would you have had that same process and that same reasons for not investing?
Thanks, Victoria. Alexandra?
Oh, for me, statistics kind of speak right now, and women are over delivering against their male counterparts. So it's just business sense. Just go after them, and it's not necessarily that they're gonna go after you. We are two female partners in our 4-partner group, and we saw about 3 times more females because of that than our male counterparts. So you really have to put yourself out there, and for women to trust and come to you. Otherwise, you're going to miss out.
Thanks, Alexandra. Mary Jo?
I'm hoping many of our investors or VCs that are on the call, I hope they really look around for women board members, because I think that's a good change agent position. And I think it also gives people an opportunity to be a peer-to-peer level, and the dynamic is different. So I think that's an action that they could take pretty quickly.
Fantastic, Mary Jo. And Ita, I'm going to give you the last word, so why don't you close up the panel?
Yes, 2 things. One of the portfolio founders in my portfolio said, women are judged on traction and men are judged on potential. When you go into that, if that woman walks into your office and gives you this pitch or gives you this video pitch and you see the traction there, take that and add the lens of potential that you would have given to the guy with half the traction that she has, and think about how big the opportunity can be. And then the second thing is around, all that's going on here. If you feel uncomfortable, say something, don't stay silent, whether it's about gender, whether it's about race. If you feel something, don't stay silent.
Thank you so much, all of you. Just like the panel last month, we could have spent 30 minutes with each of you, but hopefully Bill and Adam and Joe will give you more time on another one of these. And so thank you very much. I'm going to hand back to Bill Saris.